morning sunshine.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Half Street High Heat. What are we at? I'm just gonna say it's the first episode of season 4 because technically it is, even though we're not guaranteed a season in 2022 yet. But it is season 4 of Half Street High Heat. Nonetheless, it's been 3 great years, so thank you for following us. And if you're new to the show, thank you for joining. And I hope you guys enjoy. Obviously, no, we didn't have an episode last week. Like I said, there's no games or season guaranteed for 2022 just yet. But the train keeps moving. We are chugging along. And tonight, we are starting a series, I guess, of ranking players. Obviously, that's pretty much what everyone's doing right now, but we did it last year, so technically we're not copying anyone. We started this first. So tonight we will be doing our consensus top 10 first basemen. And it's also timely because longtime Nationals backup first baseman Ryan Zimmerman announced his retirement officially today, so we will get into that as well. But joining me, and I was going to say this is his comeback, but obviously you've heard him dominate trivia for the last, 2 months or whatever. Ryan at We Are All Shaq, and our video editor / what's your actual title? Did we talk about that? Digital media manager,
something like that. Sounds good.
The guy of many hats, Trey at Reverse 2Rs2S is joining us.
I'm gonna change that Twitter at some point when I figure out something better than that. Right. So
Reverse is kind of cool,
same.
But
I like
Rs,
it. It's
the 2Rs2Ss because there's already 2 Rs in Reverse, so it's like
that's the confusing part. Couldn't get the original.
Right. Anyways, fellas, how we doing? It feels good to do an actual semi sort of show again.
I'm gonna say that Trey's title is Chief Director of Digital Media Specialist. So
the word chief is problematic in itself because
that's true. We're staying away from the C.
We'll have to do commander whatever media officer, not chief media officer, commander media officer, since that's the progression of the name.
Now I'm associated with the Washington football team,
but not nearly as problematic.
I hope don't want to be.
I mean,
it's weird
stuff going around right now.
Somehow they're worth like $4.2 billion. So, I guess you could do worse. But what's going on, Ryan? How's it been hanging? How's your victory tour? Were you able to do a kind of World Series parade for trivia?
It was great. Matt is just such a great stand-up guy. I didn't want to celebrate too much, but I just took care of absolutely everyone in the Half Street High Heat. So, had some great times. I beat Monty twice. And I had to celebrate that one twice because I did beat Monty twice, just in case you guys did not see. I did beat Monty twice. So I had some great celebrating in there because I beat Monty twice.
How many times?
I beat Monty twice. I don't know if you guys got that.
Okay. Got it now.
Oh, man. And you can't even say, oh, well, you had Tyler because no disrespect to Tyler. He didn't do much that match or so. Ryan beat Monty twice. That's what it comes down to.
I can't wait for Monty to listen to this and just text me.
I don't know when this will actually go live, but I guarantee you within 5 minutes of it going live, Monty will be like, "What the hell, man?" It's like, I gave you a compliment last night.
Monty's a great guy.
Great guy, Monty.
Great guy.
That guy.
Bad at trivia.
I mentioned it earlier. Obviously, the big news in there, the bar for big news is low right now because any news is big news. But big news, Ryan Zimmerman has retired officially. The writing was kind of on the wall. We thought it might have been prior to the 2021 season. He elected to come back again. Worked pretty well in not really a platoon, but, backing up Josh Bell. I thought, that role for him worked really well, and obviously just hitting lefties as he's always been able to do. But obviously the Nats are going through a rebuild right now. Who knows what's in store for this season whenever it does resume. And if, the Nats even decide to fill out their roster with free agents or just elect to ride it out with what they got, Zim did not want to do that, and it's hard to blame him. He decides to call it a career after 16 years with the Nats. Obviously, the Nats' first draft pick after moving to DC came up the same year. All that gets, arguably rookie of the year. I think he came in second to like Hanley Ramirez, but he was very much in contention and deserving of that award as well. 2-time All-Star, Gold Glove, obviously World Series champion. Immediate thoughts now that Ryan Zimmerman kind of officially closed the chapter on the 2010s Nats.
It's kind of nuts because now Juan Soto and Victor Robles are the only people who are on the Game 7 World Series roster that are left. It's an end of an era.
Players, but
like it's an end of an era. Like he leaves as the Nationals WAR leader for position players, at bat, plate appearances, runs scored, hits, home runs, doubles, total bases, RBIs, no strikeouts. But so I was just reading down the list on Baseball Reference of everything that he leads in, and it's a different era. I don't really blame him leaving. He's done everything that he could possibly do in DC. He has like nothing left to prove in DC. It was a great long career. It's pretty rare that guys spend their entire career in one place, and we got to see that with Zim from the first draft pick all the way into what is now a new era. Like everyone we've used to have been seeing the last 10 years are basically gone, and Zim's like, you know what, I've done everything I could, and he's out. They're going to build a statue. They're going to rightfully retire his number, and it won't be the last we see of him. I'm pretty sure they're going to do some type of like front office role like the Mariners
special
did.
Advisor to whatever.
Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there on opening day. They're going to have a lot of stuff planned for him this year. And happy retirement, gets to spend time with his family. And he did the thing every athlete does. As soon as they start talking family, that's it. Buster Posey did it.
Goddamn Tom Brady.
Tom Brady did it the first time.
Family.
It's like worse than a torn ACL.
As soon as that family starts coming up, the athlete's done, and he started talking about his family, and it was a hell of a career. I drone on him quite a lot, but I'll pay respects when it's earned, and right now it is.
Absolutely. Trey, what were your thoughts?
Well, I honestly thought he might come back just to see if he could make a run at 300 homers because he's 15 off, I think. But if he really doesn't have anything left to prove. After the World Series, he really didn't have anything left to prove or show. He could have retired then, and I don't think anyone would have batted an eye at that either. And he's also, it's just a unique story because he's kind of a local. He came out of UVA and he lives here and he's super involved with the community. And I think that's why a lot of people identify with him around here. And I think they should.
Yeah. It's, I looking back on obviously the benefit of hindsight and whatever, it makes sense that he wanted to come back after the World Series because you just never know if you're going to be able to run it back. Obviously, the Nats, as we know now, again, with the benefit of hindsight, they were just like team of destiny, lightning in a bottle type vibes. And it's impossible to kind of recreate that to take it to football. Obviously, the Bucks won last year and they returned all 22 starters and some of them on like very cheap team friendly deals because they wanted the chance to run it back. Obviously the Nats team was kind of very different from 2019 to 2020, but obviously COVID and whatnot. So Zim opted out. So he wanted to come back to, go out on his own terms. And it's funny that he, at the end of the season, didn't make any sort of declaration or decision or whatever, but they kind of not forced, but forced him into a farewell tour during that last series against the Red Sox. But it was cool to see him have that moment, and it's better to have that moment than not get it at all. So like Ryan said, I'm definitely part of the crowd that has given him grief over the years, but listen, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, he's a legend. He's a Nats icon. He deserves to have a statue and his number retired and Ring of Fame and all that stuff. Like there's no argument against it. And 16 years with the same franchise is impossible to do nowadays. So, he deserves all the credit in the world. And definitely would have been cool to see him hit something like 300 home runs, but there's also no real guarantee, especially if he was a bench role or whatever. He just had a kid, so I think it makes sense in the timings, right? Plus, he's never probably been one to care about individual accolades and whatnot, so makes all the sense in the world. Like Ryan said again, I think we will see him back in some capacity in the future. He will be around and whatnot. So congratulations to Ryan Zimmerman on retirement. Well earned and well deserved. Golf claps. But speaking of first baseman, we're going to get into our rankings. And this is a consensus rankings. So the way it worked is Ryan and I, have a consensus list. Trey also has his list. But the way we're going to do it, so the rankings we read off are the consensus for Ryan and myself. Trey will add in kind of a live reaction element to it and kind of maybe play a little devil's advocate, but also kind of, chime in support of rankings or whatever. So trying this out and seeing how it works. And, we'll go from there. But I am ready to get this started. You guys ready?
Yeah,
I love rankings.
Oh yeah.
For those that were around last off season, I love rankings. I get really into rankings. Ryan, I know you love rankings too. So plus it's even better now because there's nothing to do. So without further ado, our first base rankings. Starting at number 10. Obviously, you get to 10. It's really just a kind of pick 'em of sorts. There's arguments for a lot of different guys depending on what metrics you're looking at and what maybe projections you have for them going into the 2022 season. Number 10 on our list is Jared Walsh of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I had him 10th. Ryan had him 10th. I guess kind of out of nowhere last year. He was an all-star. 2.8 WAR, put up a very respectable 850 OPS, 277 average, and 29 bombs. Seemingly, the Angels have kind of carved out a spot for him, whether it be at first base or in the outfield somewhere. But a very solid season. Ryan, what do you like about Jared Walsh?
Jared Walsh is someone we probably could have been. Well, not probably could have been, but probably someone we probably could have ranked higher. He
Right.
is a very solid, well-rounded outfielder. He is 10th amongst all first basemen in WAR going back to last season. Over these last 1.5 seasons, he's slashing 280, 388, and 531. He's got 38 home runs over that span as well in 176 games. Jared Walsh is pretty solid. He's someone that's really, really forgotten about, not only on the Angels, but also amongst first baseman. And the back end of this first baseman list is tough because there's a lot of guys that hop around, but Jared Walsh has played over 80% of his games at first base, and he is very, very consistent amongst everyone there in Anaheim. And the Angels offense bumps for a reason, and that's because they got guys like Jared Walsh they can put in front of Ohtani and Trout and also hit them behind. He's got power. He can hit doubles, and he gets on base with a 370 OPS over the last 2 seasons. That's pretty freaking good. That's better than DJ LeMahieu, better than Jose Abreu, and better than other guys who are going to be ahead of him. But Jared Walsh, one of the sneaky, underrated guys in this league.
Definitely. And he's someone at the, end of 2022 when we look back and say, yeah, we probably should have had him higher. And, heading in 2023, he could easily be a top 7, maybe top 5, depending on how some of these other maybe older guys perform in 2022. And obviously injuries are always a factor and whatnot. Jared Walsh is definitely a riser on this list and not, going the opposite way. Trey, what are your thoughts on Jared Walsh? Did he crack your top 10?
Jared Walsh is my number 11 pick. But I do really, really like Jared Walsh. And I honestly think what you guys are saying, he's got potential to become like a top 7 on this list at some point. I really like his on-base percentage tool. The only thing that kind of, drew me away from putting him in here was he struggled a little bit in the second half. He had a really great first half. I just wanted to see a larger sample size of consistency because obviously he was great in 2020 as well, but that was only 60 games. I think he will get consistent and probably outrank where I put him. I hope he does. but right now he's my number 11. And my number 10 was CJ Crone.
Well, I was going to say that's perfect segue because our number 9 is CJ Crone. I did not rank him in my top 10, so I will let you guys, go first and, try to, I guess, prove me wrong. I had him 12th, somewhere around there. Ryan had him 7th, which is why he comes in at 9 on this list. He did have a kind of a under the radar year last year, 3.4 WAR according to Baseball Reference, 905 OPS, which is always great. Anything above 9 is great. 28 bombs. Ryan, was that kind of the lines you were looking at to see why, or when you were looking to see why CJ Crone deserves some respect?
Yeah, CJ Crone, he's a solid first baseman, and first base at the back end of it is a little sloppy. Besides center field, first base is probably one of the thinnest positions there are, and that's not taking anything away from CJ Crone. He is a very, very solid player. When you look at his numbers for last year, it's hard not to be impressed. 281, 375, 530. I do not care about the Coors effect. It is not real. He also had a 127 WRC plus in a pretty bad lineup, to say the least. They got rid of Arenado. He had 92 RBIs, 28 home runs, and 1 stolen base. The guy's got speed. He is pretty good. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's underrated. He's one of the he is one of the players that people easily forget about because he's playing on the Rockies. And ever since they got rid of LeMahieu and Arenado, no one really cares about the Rockies.
And now Story's not there anymore.
That's right. Story's gone too. Yeah. So he's kind of doing it all himself, and his offense does
face of the franchise, CJ Crone. Oh man, that's rough. It could always be worse, Nats fans. Trey, why did you like CJ Crone so much?
Well, I really like Crone's ability to be a consistent home run hitter. If you actually look at his stats for like the past 4 seasons, even though he's been on 4 different teams, he averages like 20 home runs a season. And last season, he really stepped up the power. I think he slugged like almost 550, which is pretty impressive. And I did check the splits. He definitely gets a little bonus at Coors, but he plays there, so you can't really take it away from him. And yeah, I just like his consistent home run hitting ability and like Ryan was saying, he's been underrated because the fact that it took like 4 years for this guy to find like a legit team that wanted to keep him is kind of mind blowing to me. Especially when you look at DH stats from like there's always AL teams in the past couple years that needed a DH. And I don't know. I think he's a pretty good option for the Rockies at first base or DH now.
Right. And that's worth mentioning because it seems like first base, especially, there's those guys that technically play first, but have been or will be DHs primarily going forward. So, there's a little bit of overlap. I don't think we're going to rank designated hitters, but, as far as first base, if they are kind of that DH first base line, we put them in first base, and it's probably only 1 or 2 that it applies to. But yeah, CJ Crone, like, he's always been able to hit home runs. I know he was with the Tigers for a couple of years while they were shelling out those cheap 1-year deals for flip it guys at the deadline. CJ Crone was under that umbrella, but he's been very solid, and he's just one of those guys. He's just a ball player. So I have no problem with him being this high. And like, as Ryan's alluded to, this, really 8 through 12 for this list can really be interchangeable for the most part. But CJ Crone definitely deserves to be in that conversation because he's been consistent, like Trey said. Number 8 on our list is a guy I'm very excited to talk about and see what he can do this season, building off his strong second half from last season. That is your Washington Nationals first baseman, Josh Bell. I had him 8. Ryan had him 8. At this point, Nats fans know the case of Josh Bell's 2021 season. And if you don't, Trey put out a great video about it on our YouTube page. If you're watching right now, just, go down to our history, you'll find it. But he was really dragged. If you look at his season stats, he was really dragged down by a slow start. But if you look, basically past May, he was really, really freaking good. But all in all, 3.1 WAR, 823 OPS, 27 bombs, Played a really solid first base, switch hitter. I like how he projects. And I think my top 10, granted, this is consensus, but my top 10 was kind of looking a little bit towards the future. And not that I'm like a projection expert, but trying to project for the future. And I do think Josh Bell takes another step forward. It feels like these last, what was his breakout year in Pittsburgh? 2019, I think.
Yeah.
The really good year. These last couple of years, he's really found kind of who he is as a ball player and just have that kind of like solid floor, basically. And obviously the 2020 pandemic shortened season really impacted that and probably threw him off a little bit. And obviously, shout out Pirates for, undervaluing him. But I think now with a 2021 season under his belt and heading into hopefully, probably not, but hopefully a full 2022 season, he can really build upon what he's been working on. His launch angle was really low last year. So based on videos on Instagram and whatnot, it looks like that's something he's prioritizing. If he fixes that just a little bit, 27 home runs or whatever he hit is going to go to 35, possibly 40. We'll see how the lineup shakes out and how much protection he gets. But I do imagine he will find success, kind of just raking on weak pitching and whatnot. So I think Josh Bell's going to have a good season. But Ryan, what are your thoughts?
So on May 12th, Josh Bell was one of the worst hitters in baseball statistically. He needed to hit 300 the rest of the way just to get his batting average to 275. He hit just below that the rest of the season. He finished with a batting average above 260. And you also look where he was amongst all first basemen after that. 8th in walks, 6th in RBI, 9th in home run, 8th in OPS, 7th in average, 8th in on-base percentage, 9th in slugging, 9th in WRC plus, and 10th in offensive rating. Josh Bell was absolutely ruined by having to hit off of virtual reality T-ball for a month when he got COVID. But when he finally hit his groove and finally got his timing back in May, he was a top 10 first baseman. He had a fantastic spring training, and I will die on the hill that Josh Bell is a top 10 first baseman, and he should continue that and keep everyone pretty excited and happy, continuing being a top 10 first baseman in baseball.
Yeah, and Trey, I'll let you go here in a second, but with Josh Bell, like, how I mentioned with Jared Walsh, he's someone to me personally that I view going up this list, not down. And, he has to do more, collectively, not just like any one aspect of his game. He has to do more collectively to raise, his status among the game's best first baseman. But he's 29. This is his age 29 season. He has time to do it. He's still in his prime. Some of these guys, they're 32, 33, probably going the opposite way. Bell is still young. I think he can really build upon what he's doing. And it's a, strong reason I want the Nats to re-sign him now for cheap at, $10 million a year, as opposed to having him, have a breakout 2022 season, a huge season, and cash in at $15 million a year or whatever it may end up being. So I do think, like Ryan said, he's without a doubt a top 10 first baseman. But Trey, what are your thoughts?
All right. So I had Josh Bell at number 9. And it's pretty much, I like what you said, Nick, about the floor. You pretty much have seen, what you're going to get from Josh Bell. His stats were right on his career averages at the end of 2021. And that was with the COVID disaster at the beginning of the season with the Nationals. And all of the advanced metrics really support Josh Bell being a great hitter, except for launch angle. He hits the ball consistently hard. He's above the 90th percentile on Baseball Savant, I believe. I'll pull that up somewhere. But yeah, so
he's doing this in post, so you'll probably see it on your screen right now.
I really don't see much potential for him to regress. I really only see him going up. So yeah, he was my number 9 choice.
Yeah, I think he's definitely top 10, but he's comfortably in the 8 to 10 range. He needs to do more, like I said, collectively to raise himself among the game's best, but he's taken steps to at least get himself in position to take that next step. So big Josh Bell fan here. Sticking in the NL East, number 7 for us is Pete Alonso. Again, number 7 on this list. 4.2 WAR last year, 863 OPS, 37 home runs. Obviously, you've seen him in the home run derby in his rookie year. He's no stranger to hitting home runs. It's just a matter of what else can he do. Definitely cooled off after his rookie season, but still respectable coming in at 7 on this list. Ryan, I'll kick it to you before, I ramble on too much, because I know you have a seemingly love-hate relationship with Pete Alonso, and I don't know where that necessarily stems from, but it is fascinating to hear you talk about.
Sorry, there's some stuff about Pete Alonso. There's just some really, really funny memes about Pete Alonso that you just can't get into. But
I realized that as soon as you said, I was like, oh, no wonder.
But the polar bear, he's a great pure power hitter. Pete Alonso's so tough to figure out where to put. Look at him last year. He had 37 home runs in New York. That's, in that field, that's no small feat. They had the whole debacle with their fence when that stadium was built. They had to move it in a couple times. 37 home runs, 344 on base, kind of stinks, but 37 home runs, only a 519 slugging. I say only. I feel like that should have been a little bit higher, but that's okay. For example, Joey Votto had 36 home runs and his slugging was almost 50 points higher. Pete Alonso is just such an interesting guy. But at the end of the day, I do like pure power first baseman, and you are going to get that from Pete Alonso. He also got you a 3 WAR. That's above league average, right around it, I should say. And he's just a solid, dependable first baseman at the end of the day. Not my favorite person, not my least favorite, but he's going to get you 30 plus home runs. And if you put that in the 4 spot of your lineup, you're going to take that every single time.
Do you have any resentment towards him because you picked him to lead the league in home runs and he didn't?
Well, he did win the home run derby, and he also hit a kid and then danced while he was beating a cancer survivor in Trey Mancini. So
he should be your favorite player. Sounds like exactly what Shaq would do. So
I didn't specify what he would lead the home runs in. He led the home runs in the home run derby.
That's fair. That's fair. Trey, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was recovering from that comment. Okay, I also had Alonso at 7. And yeah, it's really tough to rank him because he's a weird hitter. If he just can't get on base consistently, and normally I don't like that, but from a first baseman,
you don't like him because he doesn't get on base. That's a reverse Moneyball. Reverse to our stresses. Reverse Moneyball.
Yeah. He doesn't. I mean, he still gets on base a decent amount, but not as much as I'd like. If he ever elevates that tool, he's going in my top 5 because his home run hitting power and ability is pretty much unmatched by most players in the entire league. I mean, you guys remember 2019, he was ridiculous. And I think he could potentially not reach that high again because of the juice balls, but he could potentially be a 40 home run guy. He was almost there last year. So I have him at 7.
Yeah. And he's 27, entering his age 27 season. So, I mean, who knows? Like, baseball players are so weird with when they peak. Some peak super early and are ready at 24 and then kind of fizzle out later on, sort of like a Manny Machado, although he's still very good. But it seems like Manny Machado had so much hype when he was young and upcoming with the Orioles, and it's kind of fizzled off since he's been at the Padres, maybe because Fernando Tatis is there. But anyways, Pete Alonso definitely burst onto the scene, taking the world by storm, and has definitely cooled off since then. He definitely needs to get on base more often, work some walks, but it's hard to tell a guy to walk when you're capable of swinging and hitting a ball 700 feet like Pete Alonso is. So I would have to imagine if I had that kind of raw power that I would want to use it more often than not as well. So I can't entirely blame him. But number 7 on our list is Pete Alonso. Number 6, moving on to a guy sneaky versatile in his own right. Max Muncy comes in at 6 on our list, of 4.9 WAR last year, 895 OPS, 249 average in 36 bombs, only 31, which it feels like he should be older than that. I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks that, but it feels like he should be older than that. Max Muncy, though, I was putting together my rankings, like I could see him lower, I could see him higher. I think this kind of 5-6 range is perfect for him because he's not elite in my mind, but he's very necessary to that Dodgers team. Like you saw how they struggled in the playoffs without him. Like not having Max Muncy, even though he wouldn't be the best player in the Dodgers. Well, Mookie, I was going to say Cody Bellinger, but who the hell knows what's going on with Cody Bellinger? I don't even know if Cody Bellinger knows what's going on with Cody Bellinger. But anyways, no matter who's on that Dodgers team, Max Muncy is always a necessity. Like they need to have him in order for that whole operation to run. And that's kind of the area when doing these rankings and doing projections and stuff like that, that's hard to quantify because you can't quantify how much someone means to a team. It feels like Max Muncy is one of those guys. Like they kind of need him to be that stabilizing force, but also that kind of insult to injury bat in the lineup. When you see Mookie Betts, you see, Cody Bellinger when he's on, you see all these other guys, the embarrassment of riches that the Dodgers have. And oh, by the way, here's Max Muncy to just really, nail in the coffin, you guys, and, en route to winning 100 games every year. So Max Muncy is someone like you can't put any lower, but I don't know if you can put him any higher just yet either. Maybe he has an MVP season, who knows? But right now it's like 5-6 range is really where, in my mind, he belongs. But Ryan, what do you think?
Max Muncy is someone I would have put higher if he logged more innings at first base. He was the only person on the top 10 list that had less than 1,000 innings defensively at first base. But Max Muncy is good, and that's more of a product of how the Dodgers use their players. They have Max Muncy, and they're like, hey, maybe we should go sign a Freddie Freeman, which is really annoying. But amongst first basemen, he was tied for third in WAR. He was tied for third in WRC plus. He also hit 249. I do not care about batting average. He had a 368 on base percentage, of 527 slugging. He had the second highest defensive rating amongst all first basemen, 36 home runs, 94 RBIs. It's hard to get 100 RBIs on the Dodgers, especially last year because that lineup was so good. People are getting driven in a lot. But Max Muncy is good. And again, I would have ranked him higher, but how much he moves around, I decided to stick to him at first base. I like where I have him now, but if Max Muncy actually stuck at first base for a full year or so, he'd probably be a little bit higher than that on the list. Big Max Muncy fan.
Yeah, for the record, I had him 6th. Ryan had him 5th. I had Pete Alonso 5th, and Ryan had Pete Alonso 9th. Trey, where do you have Max Muncy?
I have Max Muncy at number 4. I really like Muncy's consistent on base plus power bat in the lineup. It doesn't really matter to me where he plays because he was pretty versatile defender. I mean, he's played all over the infield. He's played some outfield, I believe, as well. Maybe not recently.
So. Yeah, earlier.
But yeah, he's capable, and he, like Ryan was saying, he graded out pretty well at first base defensively. Obviously, if they sign Freeman, that kind of boots him probably to second base, I would think. But either way, it's just that he's been so consistent getting on base and hitting for power since 2018. So that's really the reason for me. I love those two tools together. You can't really beat it in my mind.
Yeah, I have no problem with Max Muncy at 4. Like he's been great. And obviously, if the Dodgers of all teams are hurting without him, then you kind of know he's valuable and kind of means something. Number 5, former MVP on this list. I was going to say, oh no, there's just one other MVP. Former MVP coming in at number 5 is Jose Abreu. I had him number 7. Ryan had him number 4. He had a 3.0 WAR last year, 831 OPS, 261 average, but he did hit 30 bombs. The thing with Jose Abreu is, he had the MVP season. Obviously, it was, 2020, 60-game season. Everyone's going to say whatever they want about that. But he's been so good ever since he got to the bigs. Like, I think he debuted in 2014. And ever since then, he's been the model of consistency. Like there's a reason he's still doing this after all this time. And he's on the older side. Like this is going to be his age 35 season. So I had him a little bit lower because again, I factored in kind of projecting 2022 into this rankings. Obviously you can only do that so much because we don't know what the season's going to look like, if the season looks like anything at all. But I think Jose Abreu, there's obviously room for regression, but I think there's regression in sight. How much though remains to be seen, but that doesn't change the fact what he's been able to do over the past 7 years. And recently, obviously he had a great 2020 season, not as great 2021, but still solid. Obviously 30 home runs is nothing to turn your nose up at. But I think he's probably going the opposite way on this list compared to some other guys, but still deserves his respect. And I have no problem with anyone like Ryan having him at number 4, and no problem with anyone having Jose Abreu higher than I did on my list. But Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Jose Abreu definitely gets the recent MVP boost from me. I took 2020 into consideration as well for most of my rankings that I'm going to do, just considering how short that season was. But when you look back to including 2020, he's 4th in home runs, 2nd in doubles. He's top 5 in WRC plus. He's a little bit down in batting average, but he's still hitting 278 over that span. And if you include 2020, look at all of his numbers. He's top 6, 5 or 6 in most stuff. 4 might be a little too high for him right now, coming off a down season, but recent MVP, big fan of him. And I just like how he's able to split the gap and hit the ball in most directions. That's a big plus for me. And I got him a nice little boost at 4.
Yeah, again, no problem with that. Trey, where'd you have him?
I actually had Jose Abreu at number 8.
A little bit lower. Why is that?
A little bit lower. Well, I noticed that this was the first season since I think 2014 or 15 where his average exit velocity and hard hit percentage both dropped. His barrel percentage dropped. He was still really, really good. And honestly, 8 is maybe more to do with age than that. It's just that he's starting to get older. And when you see a dude get older and his, peripherals are going down, it's just a little scary, but he could easily outperform 8. Like Ryan said, he just won MVP. He's a really consistent hitter. So I could see that being way too low. I just docked some points because I saw that. And that's pretty much it. The only reason.
I mean, the what have you done for me lately argument always applies. Like, even if they were an MVP 2 seasons ago, in which case Jose Abreu was, it's like his 2021 is the most recent sample size we can look at. And there's that argument for a ton of players that will, cover as we go through all these positions and do these rankings. So I think that's fair, but also, again, kind of like what Ryan said, the MVP boost and, that aspect of it is fair as well. So it's, he might be the one, I think based on our rankings, just the 3 of us here, probably is the one we have all over the place, as high as 4, as low as 8. But I can see both arguments. So that's why I kind of had him at, well, maybe towards the bottom of the spectrum, but it's kind of why I had him in the middle. All right. Number 4, a guy that was probably, I won't say should have won an MVP, but like, it's surprising that he hasn't. Paul Goldschmidt comes in at number 4 on our list. 6.1 WAR last year, according to Baseball Reference. I had him at 4. Ryan had him at 6. He had a 294 average and 31 bombs. I will admit, and granted, this happened on a previous episode, like during the season, but I thought Paul Goldschmidt sucked. Like after the trade, I thought he was just kind of like falling off a cliff. And he did have it down. What was that, 2019 or 2020 season, whenever it was? It was one of those. 2020? I don't remember. Whenever the trade happened. His first year in St. Louis wasn't great, but last year he had a freaking phenomenal season. Very under the radar. Maybe that's because of the Arenado trade and, everything that was going on with the Cardinals, but he had a very, very solid season. I mean, it's not easy to put up a 6 WAR season. So that's pretty impressive in its own right. And he's always played elite level defense. It's just a matter of would the hitting translate out of Arizona. And obviously the crazy atmosphere Arizona provides offensive players. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on Paul Goldschmidt? Because you had him at 6, comes in at 4, so he's a little bit lower for you than everyone else.
Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt is the forgotten first baseman in the sense that I forgot he was a first baseman when I made my list, and I didn't feel like going back. Paul Goldschmidt, he's good. You know, people forget about that. He left the Diamondbacks, wasn't putting up the elite numbers right away. He wasn't getting the boost from hitting in the dry desert air. That stadium's now taken, steps to avoid that. He went to a new division. There was definitely a little bit of a learning curve, I would say, going to a more pitcher dominant and pitcher focused division. And he did pretty well this year, going against some pretty good rotations. He faced the Brewers a lot, and we all know how good the Brewers rotation is. That in mind, he had a 4.9 F4, tied for third amongst third basemen. He had 294, 365, 514, 31 home runs, 99 RBIs. He's lost a little bit in his step defensively, but first base is one of those positions I do not care about the defense. Your job is to hit, and Paul Goldschmidt does that. Looking at last year alone, he led first baseman doubles with 36. If he was on the Nats, they would call him Paulie 2 bags for that. And he's just all around solid. He's been doing it for a long time. He dipped down a little bit, but last season was reminding everyone that, hey, I'm still a top first baseman.
Nats fans really do have trouble with nicknames.
Paulie 2 bags.
Yeah, but that's something I 100% would have seen out of Nats fans should Paul Goldschmidt have ever become a Nats first baseman. So it might be for the best that he never did. Trey, what are your thoughts on Paul Goldschmidt?
I had Goldschmidt at number 5. And
4, 5, 6.
I mean, yeah, he's been doing this for a long time, and it's good that to see that he had a bounce back because after leaving Arizona, because obviously the hitting conditions pre-2019 Arizona were pretty insane. But yeah, I mean, and he's still great on defense. He's not going to be as good as he was because he's not as young anymore. And he's going to have a Hall of Fame case, a legit Hall of Fame case when he retires, I think, just because I feel like this is sustainable for a few more years with him.
The no MVP thing will really hurt his case. Not saying you're wrong, but I think it will definitely hurt his case when that time comes. But I could see that he just needs a couple more good solid years like he had last year, in my opinion. All right, so Paul Goldschmidt at 4. Number 3 on our list is honestly one of my favorite players in baseball, mainly because his swing is one of the most aesthetically appealing swings, again, in all of baseball. And that is Oakland A's first baseman Matt Olson, coming in at number 3 on our list. He had a 5.8 WAR last year, a 911 OPS. Ryan had him third. I had him third, 271 average, 39 bombs. Could have had more if he wasn't playing in that atrocious ballpark the A's call home. I love this guy. At this point, I have a bias towards him. He outside of like Josh Bell, he's probably, well, can't say outside Josh Bell because there's another guy I love too. But outside of Josh Bell, he's definitely up there for my favorite first baseman in total. Matt Olson, I mean, dude can do it all. Plays great defense. Again, he sweet swing, great offensive output. Just a strong all around player. I don't know how he's a guy the A's are looking to potentially move. Makes no sense to me. And I don't know how legitimate those rumors are, but it definitely seems like something the A's would do. I mean, for Christ's sake, they gave away their manager, literally just gave him away. So I can see the A's doing some dumb shit like moving on from Matt Olson, but I think he is going to be a top first baseman for quite a long time. He's 28, so still in his prime. We'll see how long that prime lasts. But again, I think he's gonna be a top player for a long time. But Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, free Matt Olson, trade him, get him out of that absolute horrible ballpark because he is putting up great numbers in a not very friendly ballpark for hitters. He had a 146 WRC plus. That's second amongst all first basemen. He was second in F4 amongst all first basemen as well. A 371 on base percentage. because he gets on base, a 540 slugging, which is also great. All of his offensive numbers, whatever way you look at it, they're great. And he did that in a ballpark that isn't very kind to hitters and with not a lot of protection in the lineup because the A's aren't very good. They stink. I'm just going to say it. The A's stink, and he's going to torment the Nats for years when the Braves trade for him because Freddie's going to walk, and that's going to be so fun to watch him in an actual ballpark with a great lineup around him.
God, it does seem also like something that would happen, unfortunately. Trey, what are your thoughts on Matt Olson?
I had Matt Olson at number 2. I think he's just getting into his prime right now. And if he gets traded, those stats are going to, I mean, he's like 540 in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And the defense is there too. He's pretty damn good over there. So I really don't, especially if he gets traded, I don't really see how his numbers couldn't stay there or improve because he's just getting out of that ballpark. And like you were saying, Nick, very aesthetic load and swing, just extremely fun to watch. And when he hits moon balls. Like if you want to look up some high launch angle homers, Matt Olson's got you covered. Just super fun player and extremely good. I think he's going to get better, honestly.
I think I did this the last YouTube video we had, but Matt Olson has such a unique swing because he's like out here with his load.
Yep.
And then he comes back and obviously makes it look a lot better than I'm demonstrating right now, but such a unique yet aesthetically appealing swing. And it works. Clearly it freaking works. Like if he was out of the Coliseum, he's probably OPS above 1,000. I would have to imagine. And I mean, he's hitting 39 home runs. Shoot, he might hit 50, like legitimately. Depending on what ballpark he goes to.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium, that short porch. He's 55.
Yeah, like this dude, similar to Josh Bell, and granted, Josh Bell is lower in the tiers, obviously, as we do this rankings, but like similar in that his value is probably lowest right now, and it's only going to get higher in my mind. But obviously, Matt Olson's value is still very high right now. That's not trying to say like he's been underperforming. Clearly, he has not. Honestly, he might have been. Who knows? He might be MVP caliber player, perennial MVP caliber player. All right, number 2. Obviously, we have 2 people left for these 2 spots that deserve the top consideration: Freddie Freeman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm curious to hear the different arguments from each of you. Trey, you had Matt Olson number 2, so I'm curious to hear who you had number 3. But we'll kind of just combine this all together because I do think it's sort of a pick 'em. So we'll combine 1 and 2 for this discussion. Number 2 in the consensus rankings, however, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I had him at 1. Ryan had him at 2. Ultimately, the tiebreaker was Freddie's winning MVP. So the MVP boost played a part in our rankings as well. Ryan, you had him at number 1, though. Why is Freddie your number 1, and why is Vladdy still that runner-up for now?
When it comes to first base, Freddie Freeman is going to be the best first baseman in baseball until someone proves it consistently that he's not. It's kind of like Mike Trout. Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. There's guys that are threatening him, but Mike Trout is still the best first baseman in baseball. You look at Freddie's workload, it does not disappoint. No one really talked about it, but Freddie came really close to once again having another 3, 4, 500 slash line, which is rather rare. Down year from power-wise, 31 home runs, 83 RBIs. Freddie is as solid as it gets. He's clutch. He's good. He's good year in and year out. He is the best first baseman in baseball. And I don't really think it's much of an argument either. Like, I think it's getting to that thing that we're seeing with other sports and other positions. We're like, well, this guy's the best, because people are tired of saying the same person is the absolute best. But I'm not moving from Freddie being the number 1. And then it comes to Vlad Jr. 2021 was the Vlad coming out party. He was in Triple Crown watch and didn't get a single first place MVP vote. He would have won MVP if it wasn't for one of the best seasons that we have ever seen. My thing with Vlad, was that what he's capable of every single year, close to it? Or did he benefit from playing in South Florida in a minor league stadium for over half the year? Now, I know there are stats that do adjust for that. It's not WRC plus isn't perfect, but he did lead in the park adjusted stats. I like to see him do it over a full season in Toronto. His numbers last year were absolutely stupid, though. 3.45 is a fantastic slash line. If you slash 3.45 through a season, you're an all-star, you're an MVP conversation. His slugging was 600. So he did 3.46. That's how good he was last year. I just want to see him do it over a full season in Toronto, but Vlad's 2, and he's coming pretty hot on Freddie's back for the number 1.
He's coming hot on Freddie's back. Oh my God.
Freudian slip.
Coming in hot. HAWT.
And on Freddie's back too. My goodness.
Damn, I didn't know they were doing that during the lockout.
Oh God. Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, Ryan. And I remember was it 2018 was Mookie Betts MVP season. Everyone's like, Mookie might be better than Trout. Mookie might be, and I love Mookie, don't get me wrong, but he's not better than Trout. Like now that we've had 3 seasons since his MVP season. Wait, was 2018 his MVP or was
2018, I think.
Yeah. So he won MVP the same year the Red Sox won the World Series.
I'm pretty sure that was the year he killed it.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure I wasn't mixing those up. But yeah, now that we've had 3 years post his MVP season, we can pretty comfortably say that he's not better than Mike Trout. Still very good. Not trying to take anything away from him. So maybe that is kind of applicable to the situation between Vladdy and Freddie Freeman. So I'm probably just on that hype train and riding the wave with Vladdy. His year last year was absurd. Like it took a generational performance from Shohei Ohtani to, take away what Vladdy was doing. And honestly, yeah, that sucks for Vladdy, but Shohei deserved MVP. I think he's 23. He's entering his age 23 season, and he's already doing this stuff. Like Juan Soto was obviously great early. He didn't have that quite eye-poppingness at. Did I sound stupid? Wait, what? How old's Juan Soto right now?
20.
He
turned 23 at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, he just finished his age 22 season.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure I had it right before I said something stupid. Juan Soto, MVP caliber player last year, did not have the eye-popping stats that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. did. That's my point, and obviously, that's the only point I was trying to make. I'm not trying to make any sweeping declarations or anything like that, but Vladimir Guerrero to me has the hype, and I think the hype matters in something like this. Can he replicate it? Can he do it for a full season again in his own home park without the benefit of a minor league stadium? I don't know, but I'm willing to ride and die with him because I do think he is the real deal. The dude has, we saw, you want to talk about home run derbies, he probably had one of the best home run derby performances of all time. So I just love that man. And granted, I love Freddie Freeman too, and I respect what he's done. And maybe I am just tired of anointing him the best first baseman in baseball, but I'm on that Vladdy wave. But Trey, break the tie here. What was your take on these two guys?
I had Freeman at number 3 and Vladdy at number 1. Freeman he's obviously been one of the best first basemen for the last, I don't know, almost 15 years. So he's been very consistent throughout his whole career. The thing that I just wanted to jump Vladdy into the first place spot because I saw the difference in his approach. He's become a much more patient hitter, and he's still able to produce with extreme power. And sometimes guys who walk a lot, they miss opportunities for home runs and extra base hits, but he hit opportunities for all of it. He walked and he hit for a lot of power. And he's 23, and I don't think this is slowing down. But yeah, pretty much 1, 2, 3 for me. Freeman, Olson, Vladdy. You could put any of those guys at number 1 right now, and I would honestly be okay with it. There's a case. But but that's why I went with Vladdy, just because he's so young, and this was such a ridiculous season. And I don't think he's gonna regress from that. I think he's just gonna keep getting better.
Yeah, that's not even an option in my mind. He's only going to get better. Like, it definitely is a possibility. And like, because the bar is so high based on his 2021 season, like regression's more likely than progression. But I'm not even thinking about that. Like, he's only going to get better in my mind. He's so young and so damn good that he is the best first baseman in baseball for me. But do you guys have any honorable mentions? Any guys that just missed the list?
I do. Okay. I got one on my list that y'all didn't talk about.
All right, who would be?
Number
Joey
6
Votto?
is Joey Votto.
Yeah,
Okay.
I completely forgot about him when I was making my list.
I texted Nick and I was like, did y'all forget or what? And
I mean, hands up, I did.
So I did not include Joey. He would be number 11 for me. My only concern, he's 38. And like, again, I, just personally decided to kind of project with this list. I didn't do a top 10 based on right now, February 15th. I did it for the 2022 season. And if Joey Votto can prove everyone wrong again for the second year in a row, or maybe the 5th year in a row, I don't know, like that, great. Like, I will happily give him the respect he deserves. But at some point, he is going to regress to the point where it's just like, all right, people aren't going to start talking about, is it time? It's just natural, when you get up in that age as a professional baseball player or, professional athlete. So I think he's going to regress a lot, but he did have a great year last year, and I have no problem him being on the list. 6, however, seems very high to me. So please feel free to elaborate.
All right. So, age is a factor as well with him. I know I mentioned Abreu. He's getting old too. And I did dock points from Abreu a little bit for that. And with Votto, the difference for me was that Votto had a completely different approach than he's known for. He's known as, kind of a dude who doesn't strike out, and he walks a lot, and he puts the ball in play to all fields. But he completely adjusted to a more pull-centered, power-based, more strikeouts, but more power approach. And because of that, I honestly think he bought himself maybe 1 or 2 more seasons of really productive hitting. Maybe not as productive as last season, because he did end up with like 37 homers, which is pretty crazy, but I think he could go over 30 again, no problem. And if you go on his Savant page, he's got a lot of red circles, and I like those. So I think, and the DH as well is going to help him play more. I think he only played 129 games, and he probably got some rest games because obviously they were in the National League before the DH was implemented. But I think he's going to be able to do some, maybe not at the same level as 2021, but I think he goes over 30 home runs again if he stays healthy.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about potential Hall of Famers, I think Joey Votto is a fascinating case. He has the MVP. It seems like a lifetime ago, but he has the MVP. He's a Gold Glove winner, 6-time All-Star. And I think with the inclusion of the DH in the NL now, he's going to be able to kind of pad his career stats enough to take it from an argument to, he needs to get in. So, this is obviously a separate conversation, one we've been having for years now about the DH. I do think the DH benefits someone like Joey Votto greatly in terms of his, individual accolades, which I'm sure he would tell you only means so much, but at the end of the day, it is pretty cool to be able to have the opportunity to, continue your career and, provide value without having it, take so much of a toll on your body and at that age, and prevent breakdown or burnout or anything like that. So I do think Joey Votto will be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I think he deserves it. But again, 6 is too high. Like, he has bought himself some years, and it is, he's kind of reminded me of like CC Sabathia's end of his career. Like, CC Sabathia was a strikeout guy and then adapted his game to be a, pitch to contact guy. And obviously wasn't the Cy Young contender he was earlier in his year, his career, but he was more than serviceable. That's how I feel about Joey Votto. Like, he was an MVP. Like, elite premier top 5 player in baseball level, and kind of cooled off maybe quicker than he thought, and he adapted his game like you said he did, buy himself some time. But I don't think he's top 6. That's what it comes down to. Fair enough. Me. I had Yuli Gurriel at 10 for me. And then I admit I probably would have switched him and Votto, but no, I ended up anyways. Yuli Gurriel is an honorable mention for me. Like he's up there too. I believe he's 38 as well, but he's been so solid. Not like out of this world, not great, but I think he is an honorable mention. If anyone had him at like 10, be like, all right, that's fine. I don't have a compelling argument for why he should be top 10 or any higher than that. I just think he deserves some honorable mention as well. The last guy I wanted to bring up, Anthony Rizzo. So again, he feels like someone who's 38 as well, but he's only 32. And he had kind of a big step back last year. Obviously, he was traded from Chicago to New York. Being in New York didn't help his offensive stats all that much. He had a drop of 75 points in his OPS from 2020 shortened season, but 2020 to 2021. Ryan, I'll kick it to you. Do you think Anthony Rizzo is like someone is a bounce back candidate, or do you think he's kind of heading the wrong way?
Yeah, he's for sure a bounce back candidate. I didn't even consider him for the top 10. I just did not like the season he had. He had a 258 BABIP that was about 30 points lower than his career average, which kind of senses that there could be some bounce back there for him. His numbers just across the board were way down. He went to Yankee Stadium, and then usually guys do a little bit better there. He didn't really. Nothing really impresses me with his numbers, but I do think he will be able to bounce back. I think he's kind of, like a 16, 17, maybe 18 range guy right now. But then there's a lot of emergence of some random dudes like Ty France and stuff like that who are ahead of him that I did consider him, but I have him as my honorable mention. But yeah, I'm kind of off the Rizzo train for a while. I've been off ever since he screened "Respect Me" after hitting a bloop single that Jason Worship caught. But
okay, finally I can talk to someone about this, because I feel like everyone that I know missed that, and I'm like, what are you yelling about, dude? You just hit a pop-up.
A broken bat bloop single got sawed off, and it dropped between 3 defenders.
Still makes me upset to this day.
I mean, perfect placement. Just respect him. It was perfectly placed.
Yeah, he did it on purpose.
Yeah, guy act like he roped a double into the corner that cleared the bases, screaming "respect me."
It's like someone in slow pitch softball who only does those dink singles. He's like, "Respect me." All right, shut up.
850.
I think he's a bounce back candidate as well, but I don't think even if he does bounce back, he's going to be a top 10 guy anymore. Anyways,
right? Agreed. Like there is bounce back, but he's not going to bounce back to. I don't think he bounces back as well as like Joey Votto did. I don't even know if you can consider Joey Votto as a bounce back, but Joey Votto has still put up great years in his post prime. I don't think Rizzo gets to that, but he can definitely be respectful, and obviously he's a leader and a winner and all that stuff. So his career's not over, but I don't think he's top 10 anymore. Anyone else? Did we miss anyone?
Yeah, Ty France.
Oh yeah, Ryan mentioned
that.
Yes, sir. My honorable mention.
Yeah, he was someone I looked at a lot too. The only reason I really didn't consider him was because he has a lot of different games played at all around the infield. So I don't know if he's going to stick there or not. But either way, it doesn't really matter where he plays. He was very productive. But for a first baseman, the reason if he's going to be a first baseman, I'd like to see the power increase a little bit. He's got pop, but it hasn't quite had that tool. On base though, he's money, and I really like that about him. So if he sticks at first base, he's definitely capable of cracking this top 10. In fact, he could have even arguably be in the top 10. I just didn't put him there because he's got not enough games played yet.
Yeah, so definitely a dark horse candidate heading into next year, but we will see. I mean, Yeah, there's other guys that you can argue, but I think that's pretty much the top 14-ish as well. Maybe like Ryan Mountcastle could possibly get up there.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know.
weird.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's good
possibly,
or
but
not.
probably not. I don't know. But I think we kind of hit the nail on the head. So again, we will be doing this all off season, spring training, long, whatever, this preseason stuff looks like for the MLB season. So for the next like 7 weeks, we will be doing this. Next week, we will tackle second baseman. Second base has always been a very wacky position to try to rank because there's guys that can play second base, guys that, probably got hurt or had down seasons or whatever. So second base will be a fascinating case study to tackle. So that'll be next week's video and episode as well. Any final thoughts before we sign off for the week and prepare our second base rankings?
Probably just congrats Ryan Zimmerman on a successful retirement.
I thought you were going to congrats Ryan. I was like,
congrats
what?
Other Ryan for getting rid of him.
For what? Yeah, I was like, what are we congratulating Ryan for again? Like, dude.
Congrats him being the trivia champ. I mean, I guess we could say that again.
So keep feeding his ego, I guess.
Yeah.
Ryan, any final thoughts?
Monty lost twice.
Yeah, should have seen that. Should have seen that coming. Monty's drunk right now and blowing up our chat. I've been I look, if you're watching on YouTube, you see me looking down, it's literally because Monty's like just blowing up the chat. So send good vibes to Monty. Drunk Monty is always fun. But appreciate you listening and watching. We will be doing these again for the next 7 weeks, however long it takes, and be posting them to YouTube. So be sure to check that out if you didn't check out this one. But it'll also be a podcast if you want to do it on your commute or whatever. But be sure to follow the show at Half Street High Heat, posting all the latest clips and baseball content you need to survive this non-baseball world we live in. Follow Trey on Twitter at reverse 2 R's 2 S's. For now, follow him now before the handle changes, and
get it now before it's too late.
We don't know who Trey is anymore. So follow him now at reverse 2 R's 2 S's. And of course, follow Shaq at We Are All Shaq and myself at Nationals Ace. Appreciate you listening. Again, next week, top 10 second baseman in baseball. And in the meantime, I don't know. I don't know. But we'll be back. I can't say the same for baseball, but we will be back. Talk to you guys later.